At the beginning of this video, I forgot to do this, so before I say goodbye, I'm gonna just say, hi, my name is Jenna, and this is Chicky Bean Loves Books. Welcome to my channel. If you've been here before, you know how this works, and if you haven't been here before, it's not hard, just follow along. I'm gonna take this clip that I'm recording at the end of my video, and I'm gonna put it at the beginning of my video, and then we're gonna go ahead and move on with more sunlight, because I started recording this in the daylight, and my TBR. Welcome to February's TBR. I'm looking at this stack of books that I have collected for myself and just thinking, ooh, there's a lot of romance. So let's go ahead and dive into this. It's not all happy romance, but let's go ahead and dive into this. It's appropriate for February, right? The month of love. It's also a very big TBR, which I think is also appropriate because isn't this a leap year? Aren't there 29 days in February? An extra 24 hours? That's like 6 books. No, not really. Let's go ahead and get into this. First off, Bean's Big Book Bash pick this month is going to be a slim volume. In January, we're reading a chunker. And in February, we're reading this one. Coming in at less than 200 pages, we have The Lover by Marguerite, I believe, Duras. Yes, Marguerite Duras or Duras. This one is a classic, obviously. I'm pretty sure most people have heard of this. It is translated from the French, I believe. Yes, translated from the French by Barbara Bray. Ooh, this one includes an introduction by Maxine Hong Kingston, who wrote Woman Warrior, which I absolutely love. Now I'm a little bit more excited about this one. I'm not super excited about this one. It takes place in Indochina, in Saigon, while the French colonization is ending in China. And it is about a love affair between a full-grown adult man and an adolescent French girl, a Chinese man and a French girl. It's not really the kind of thing I would normally choose to pick up. I am choosing to read this because this was purchased for one of my master's English classes a couple years ago, and I never read it. My group didn't end up reading this one, but they sent all the books anyway. My degree was online. They sent all the books anyway. Yeah, this is one that I didn't end up reading. It's on my shelf. I assume it must be good, or it must have some kind of redeeming quality, even if the storyline doesn't sound that great to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and find out what this is about and what's going on with this. It's very short. I reserve the right to DNF, even if it is a Bean's Big Book Bash pick. And yeah, moving forward into The Lover by Marguerite Duras. I just don't know where to put them when I'm finished talking about them. Then my classic. So last month in January, I read the book of Marjorie Kemp, and what a ride that was. That was amazing. It was, it's considered to be the first autobiography, and she's a trip. She is a trip, Marjorie Kemp. And if you have never heard of her or never read the book of Marjorie Kemp, and you are at all interested in classics or women's history or biographies or the medieval period, it takes place in the 1400s, then I strongly suggest you pick it up. It's very readable. There's actually audio book to accompany it, and it follows. The audiobook is not the same edition as the book that I read along as I listened to the audio, but it was still word for word exactly the same, minus the introduction. And so I just strongly encourage people to pick this book up. Again, Marjorie Kemp is a trip. More about that in my wrap up though. So keep an eye out for that. It's coming in a couple of weeks. So I'm really, all that to say that I'm really looking forward to this one, which takes place about 200 years, I believe, maybe 150 years before Marjorie Kemp. This is The Letters of Peter Abelard and Heloise. Ooh, I'm gonna look up her last name. I have notes that I don't have open in front of me here. Heloise, what's your last name? Heloise de Argenteuil? Probably shouldn't have even tried to look that up. Heloise. And Peter Abelard. These are the letters. I didn't know anything about Eloise and Abelard, that they have a tragic love story. Excuse me. I've had a cold for the last few days. I finally sound like I'm not like all in my head, but I still have a cough. So here we go. Keep going. Abelard and Eloise. I didn't know anything about their story until last night when I started to look them up to make notes in preparation for filming this TBR, and I didn't want to know too much, so I didn't read very much at all, but even what I read just has set me up for this set of letters. So Heloise would become, she would eventually reach the same level of power as a male bishop in a monastery, like of political power. She paves the way for the, what's that word? Bildungsroman. She paves the way for that kind of storytelling. She influences future writers, future feminist writers with her ideas about women. This is the 1100s, mind you, women being able to choose their own husbands, being able to be master of their own education, being able to learn how to read and write and think, and then to use that knowledge, not just to have access to it, because many, especially wealthy girls, did have access to that, but then to be able to use it for something beyond being able to say, yeah, she knows philosophy or theology or whatever, to actually be able to use it. Peter Abelard, he's a musician, he's a theologian, he's a philosopher. He's going to influence great philosophers like Spinoza and Kant. He is going to fight for the rights of education for women, and he is going to be a teacher of pupils, including female pupils, including Heloise. Peter and Heloise are going to fall in love. Peter and Heloise are going to be separated for almost their entire courtship and marriage. They are both going to live in monasteries. She's going to live in a nunnery. He's going to live in a monastery. They're married, but because her family opposed the marriage, he ends up being castrated, and they still maintain a loving romantic relationship, but they are separated and they live apart. And these letters, I don't know if they cover like the courtship or if they go into the marriage. I don't know what I'm gonna read, but I know it's gonna be powerful and passionate, and all the more so now that I know who these people are in just a small smidgen of a portion. I'm really looking forward to reading the letters of Abelard and Heloise. I am knocking it out of the park, I think, right now with my classics this year, and I'm really excited to be reading these. Next on the TBR, again, where do I put them when I'm done? Next on the TBR, in January, I was reading the short stories. I read the first section of the short stories by William Faulkner, and again, a different kind of trip than Marjorie Kemp, but a total trip. I read 2 of the, I believe, 6 stories already, like I was already familiar. I'm gonna go back and forth between William Faulkner and Jorge Luis Borges. Borges? Jorge. So this month I'm going to read a bunch of these short stories. Now, it's not so neat and tidy as the Faulkner. Faulkner is already broken into 6 sections that work perfectly, whereas Borges' stuff is not quite that clear. And I don't remember, got it written down, but not in front of me, exactly what section I'll be reading, but I do think that it's probably just the first section, which is A Universal History of Iniquity, which was written or published in 1935. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stories in that. So that'll be the first group of stories by Borges that I read. February is a Borgia month. And then my reread for the month is a romance. I read this for the first time, I want to say it was October, I know it was October of 2020, I believe. October of 2020. It is Ramona by Helen Hunt Jackson. Helen Hunt Jackson was a friend and contemporary of Emily Dickinson. They kept a correspondence when Helen Hunt Jackson moved out west. And one of the reasons she moved out west was because she was a fighter for the rights of both the Native American and the Mexican communities in what is California and the Midwest, but maybe like California and Nevada and Arizona. And she fought with her position and with her wealth and with her writing, her voice, to represent as a white person, even though she was a woman, which meant she didn't have quite as much say as a man, but as a white person, she represented the people whose land was being taken away from them, whose rights were being taken away from them, who were being marginalized and murdered for what they had and did not want to give up. And so she wrote this book, Ramona, which is about a love story between a Mexican girl in California, before California became a state, and a Native American man. And so there's the level of the fact that they are both marginalized individuals as white settlers are moving in to this land. And then the man is further marginalized because her Mexican family refuses to accept him because he is a Native American. So it's a super, if I remember correctly, and I think I do, it's a super sad story. It's a little Romeo and Juliet-esque. The whole, like, we can't be together because our families don't approve, so we'll do something drastic, or some drastic things will happen. And there's also just the plight of both of these communities at the hands of white settlers moving in to the area. So I'm looking forward to rereading this. I'm a different kind of reader than I was even just 4 years ago. And when I first picked this up, I'm from California. I grew up there most of my life, like we came and went, but I do consider myself as much a Californian as a Pacific Northwest-ish person. Yeah, it felt familiar. It felt comfortable. It felt homey. It felt like something I wish I could discuss with my grandma, who loved California and loved these kinds of stories. And I wonder if she ever read it. So I am really looking forward to a reread of Ramona in February. It's a romance too. It's a love story. So that's exciting. I want to do a couple of other rereads as well. I'm just feeling like after my reread of Jane Eyre last month, or in January, I'm just really wanting some more Victorian comfort rereads. So I'm going to pick up Elizabeth Gaskell's North and South and do a reread of this one. This is, of course, a love story between two people from two different worlds with two different sets of ethics and worldviews, who, set against the backdrop of the industrialization, the Industrial Revolution, and the poverty and the pain and the suppression of lower classes that comes out of that. And then, people with the power and the voice and the ability to say something and do something, along with a love story. So I'm just really looking forward to rereading this. It has been a very long time. It's been my plan to reread it a few times, but I haven't gotten around to it. And so this is the first time I will read from this copy. I bought myself a new copy of it a couple of years ago and haven't actually gotten to a reread yet. So prioritizing this for a reread, just really, really wanting it. So gonna go for that. And then at the school that I work at, the high school is going to perform Kate Hamill's Sense and Sensibility, which, if you've never seen her Sense and Sensibility or her Pride and Prejudice, I just took my kids to see Little Women, all Kate Hamill versions of live action plays. They are so well adapted for a modern day audience without losing any of the classic comfort appeal that they have for the people who would choose to go and see something like this. You are the person who bought the tickets. You're like so excited to see it and you're not sad you saw it, but then you also got that extra ticket to drag your friend who's never read the book, and they are also not sad that they saw it. So it's that kind of feeling. Anyway, the high school's gonna do a production of Sense and Sensibility. Before I got sick, I was able to be part of one of the audition sessions, so I got to talk kids through Eleanor's motivation and, you know, just fun stuff like that as they were auditioning for these parts. I work in an all-girls school, and so it was really exciting to see female interpretations of like Edward and John. It's just so much fun. And it really, you can see where we're going with this, made me want to reread Sense and Sensibility. Sense and Sensibility is my favorite Jane Austen. I love Persuasion. I love Pride and Prejudice. I love Northanger Abbey. I abide by Emma and Mansfield Park, but I love Sense and Sensibility. It is my absolute favorite. And I'm going to reread it for, I don't know, maybe, I haven't read it as much as Jane Eyre. I think I've read this maybe 6 or 7 times. This will be my 6th or 7th read, but it will be my first reading this edition of it. I got this from Better World Books. It was an old library edition. There's my Better World Books bookmark. And it is the annotated Sense and Sensibility, annotated and edited by David M. Shepard. And it's this Anchor Books series of these annotations. I have purchased these for people as gifts. I have never got one for myself. If I love the way this reads, then I'll get all of them eventually and reread them all with this, with these annotations. But I'm really excited, really excited to reread this in February. If we don't know, it's basically about sisters. It's about romance, but it's really about 2 different kind of temperaments that were, at the time that Jane Austen wrote this, just kind of 2 main perspectives that females seemed to have. They were either driven by sense or by sensibility. Each of the sisters represents either that like emotional drive or that logical drive. And yeah, so it's about sisters, it's about romance, it's about worldviews, takes on worldviews. It's Jane Austen. I mean, what else needs to be said? I'm going to continue on with my reading of the Cazalet Chronicles. Book 2, it looks very wintry. Book 2 is called Marking Time, and this one is going to focus mainly on the generation in book 1 that were the children. So all of the same cast of characters will be in this one, but it's going to be focusing more on the children, and I think in this one is where we start to veer a little bit deeper into the story than the television series that I watched was able to do. I can see how they sped up a couple of the storylines in the series to reach into future books, but for the most part, the first book makes up the content of the first series. And so I'm excited to get into this because I think that there's going to start being some information that about these characters that is not, that I don't already have in some way, shape, or form, diluted though it be, through having watched the series. And then my Sophie Kinsella reread continues. I'm going to reread all the standalone Sophie Kinsellas this year, 1 a month. And so this month I'm going to pick up her 2nd published Sophie Kinsella book. She had other books published under the name of Madeline Wickham before she published under Sophie Kinsella. This is her 2nd published Sophie Kinsella. It's the first Sophie Kinsella book that I had ever read myself, and I love this one. I actually read this 2 summers ago. I really love this one, so I'm looking forward to it immensely, and that is Domestic Goddess. The Undomestic Goddess. This one is about a lawyer who realizes that just as she's about to make partner, she's made a terrible mistake, one that she doesn't remember making at all. And it's such a huge, terrible mistake that she actually shuts down. She can't actually face it. And she ends up just kind of running away. She gets on a train and she gets off the train and she ends up visiting a house, and they think she's there to interview for a position as like a housekeeper, like the maid and the cook, and the, like, she's a housekeeper, like Alice from the Brady Bunch. She does it all. She doesn't know how to do any of those things. She doesn't even really know that she's just been interviewed and hired for this position. But then she so wants to get out of her own life. She thinks, how hard can it be? I'll wing it for a bit. I'll just pretend, and no one will know where I am, and I can hide, and I can be somebody different for a while, and I don't have to face my problem. And so she faces totally different kinds of problems as she's supposed to be like so good at cooking this really perfect eggs Benedict, and she doesn't even know what eggs Benedict is. And it's hilarious. And as I've said, I think after every single one of these books so far, it's a romance. So it's so funny. It's so good. I love it so much. And yeah, so far I am just so looking forward to this TBR. I cannot wait to start it. If you can't tell, I'm super excited about it. Next on the list, we have a life story that was full of a lot of affairs and romance and all of that stuff. But it's not a very happy life. It's a very powerful life, but not a very happy one. We're going to read the biography of Georgiana, Duchess of Devonshire. This has been republished under the title The Duchess, and it is what the not Kira Sedgwick. What's her name? Keira Knightley? Yes. Not Kira Sedgwick, Keira Knightley. It is what the Keira Knightley movie from a few years ago is based on. Was it Keira Knightley? See, now I'm totally... Yeah, Keira Knightley. This is the book that biopic was based off of. It's a very sad life story. She was, I have notes, let me get this right. It says Lady Georgiana Spencer. Spencer was the great aunt of Diana, Princess of Wales, and was nearly as famous in her day. In 1774, at the age of 17, Georgiana achieved immediate celebrity by marrying one of England's richest and most influential aristocrats, the Duke of Devonshire. He was also not a great guy. Launched into a world of wealth and power, she quickly became the queen of fashionable society, adored by the Prince of Wales, a dear friend of Marie Antoinette, and leader of the most important salon of her time. Not content with the role of society hostess, she used her connections to enter politics, eventually becoming more influential than most of the men who held office. Her good works and social exploits made her loved by the multitudes, but Georgiana's public success, like Diana's, concealed a personal life that was fraught with suffering. She has a really unhealthy relationship with the Duke of Devonshire, who is actually interested in a loving relationship with her best friend, and that's a problem. She remains married to him while he moves her into their house. Yeah, it's a rough story. It's just, I've seen the movie and I loved the movie, and I also, because she is a friend of Marie Antoinette's, I knew something about her as well before I'd seen that movie, but I want to read the book. It's a hefty, dense book with tiny writing, but I love this kind of biography, and I'm gonna eat it up, I'm sure. Very, very excited. The next thing I have on my list are 2 YA books. It is a duology, and I want to read them both if things go well. If I read the first one and I'm like, then I can pause on the second one and pull the second one out when I'm ready for it. But I'm gonna plan to read both of them just in case I absolutely love it, because I have them both. So I plan on reading Dana Schwartz's Anatomy and Immortality. Now, I don't have any idea what Immortality is about, but I know that Anatomy is about, what's her name? I know that Anatomy is about Hazel Sinnott, who is a woman who wants to train to be a doctor in Edinburgh, and she is shunned because it's the 1800s and it's not considered an appropriate career for a woman, but she wants to do it anyway. And it's also about the potential love interest, Jack Currer, who is a man who digs up bodies and sells them to students so that they can do autopsies and learn about the human body. This was, I'm sure you know, maybe you don't, but I'm sure you know, this was a big business back in the 1800s. And it's part of what the idea from Frankenstein, the idea that Frankenstein would dig up, that Dr. Frankenstein would dig up dead bodies and sew them together and things like that. It's kind of born out of the common knowledge that this was happening. It was illegal, but it was happening. And these men, like Jack, would dig them up and sell the bodies to the students, to the schools even. And they would be used as subjects. I don't know anything else except that. That's all I want to know. I want to go into it. The less I know about a YA series going in, the better off I am. Rom-coms. So I've got The Boy with the Bookstore. This one is about this guy and this girl. He owns a bookstore, she owns a bakery. His bookstore gets flooded or something, and he has to share her space. And at first she's excited about this because she's been watching him for a while. She thinks he's very attractive. Plus he owns a bookstore. How amazing is that? Only when they find out, when they're in the same space together, they find out that she is very annoyed by him. He's kind of a bro and she does not like him at all. So I don't think I need to say anything more. I'm excited to read this one. I think it's going to be silly, light, very quick read, and I hope that I enjoy it. And then we have this one, which I just love the cover of so much. This is Bear With Me Now by Katie Shepherd. This is Love is Wild. This one is about a brother and a sister, I think, who go on a camping trip, and because something maybe is happening, something has fallen apart in his life or something like that. I know his name is Tegan, and he wakes up in the middle of the woods and he's about to be attacked by a bear or something, and a woman who works in the national park saves him, and she's more concerned about the bear than she is about him. And of course they're like oil and water. They don't get along, but they will. By the end, they will. So another just silly, lighthearted rom-com, and it'll be fast, it'll be quick, it'll be nice to fit in between my heavier reads, although even my heavy reads this month seem to be, for the most part, pretty light and uplifting, and I'm looking forward to that because many of my reads in January, though I am loving January, many of them are downers. So I'm looking forward to a little lightening of that in February. Next on that list, I have Not That Kind of Ever After by Lucy Adams. This one, let me look at the back again. It says, Bella Marble's life isn't what she imagined. Instead of an author, she's a receptionist at a small press. Instead of happily married, she's single, and her lovey-dovey parents are divorcing. And to top it off, her best friend of 29 years, Ellie Matthews, is moving out and marrying the heinously boring Mark. He's not worthy of her. No one ever could be. Bella feels rudderless, only slightly soothed by time spent with Ellie's not hot brother, Marty. Okay, he's hot, but he's also the aggravating brother she never had, right? Right? When Marty recommends Bella stop looking for the one and just have fun, Bella finds a new, empowered side of herself. But when she posts a fairy tale retelling of a disastrous one-night stand on a storytelling app, all of a sudden Bella is now at b.enchanted, and she has gone viral. Now Bella's in a fight with Ellie. Her new roommates are so deeply weird, and the pressure is mounting to find new fairy tales to write about, but she's got to live them first. Sounds lovely. And I think we all know she's going to fall in love with Marty. Although it's not that kind of ever after, so maybe not. I am going to read this book that I picked up at Book Outlet. I always look for the dot. I just realized that Storygraph has been recommending this book to me for quite some time. I realized that I probably purchased this because it looked familiar to me, because it's the top book in my, like when you go into Storygraph and down at the very bottom, it shows you books, it suggests books for you. And this has been on that because I never open that. I never look at the Storygraph book suggestions. I don't look at Goodreads ones either, but it's been staring me in the face for a long time, I think. That's probably why I clicked on it when I saw it at book outlet in the first place. And it sounds great, like great recommendation, Storygraph. So The House of Trelawney by Hannah Rothschild. I love this cover. Okay, so this one says, for more than 800 years, the vast, rambling Trelawney Castle in Cornwall, turrets, follies, 4 miles of corridors, and 500,000 acres, was the magnificent calling card of the Earls of Trelawney. By 2008, it is in a complete state of ruin due to the dulled ambition and the financial ineptitude of 24 earls, 2 world wars, a Wall Street crash, and inheritance taxes. Yet Keto, his wife Jane, their 2 children, Keto's ancient parents, and his aunt Tuffy Scott, an entomologist who studies fleas, all managed to live there and keep it going. 4 women dominate the story. Jane, Keto's sister, Blaze, estranged from the family, who made a killing in finance in London, their close friend, the wildly beautiful, seductive, and long ago banished Anastasia, and her 19-year-old daughter, Aisha. When Anastasia sends a letter announcing that Aisha will be coming to stay, Jane and Blaze must band together to take charge of their new visitor and save the House of Trelawney. It's witty, irreverent, brilliant, a parody of an old aristocratic family, recession, Britain, and a ruthless American banker that asks how we are all connected and how we can find purpose in a changing world. A tale of old money, new money, and no money. So it really does sound wonderful. It sounds wonderful. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to all these books so much. Like, it's just making my heart so happy to talk about these books. I picked this one up at Book Outlet as well. This is going to be my first Lauren Willig book. I've seen her name for a while and I've been interested in reading them for a while, but this one was the one that really captured my eye and made me make a move. So this is 2 Wars and a Wedding. It does have a dual timeline, but those 2 timelines are not that far apart. One is September 1896 and the other is June 1898. So just a couple of years apart. September 1896, an aspiring archaeologist, Smith College graduate Betsy Hayes, travels to Athens, desperate to break into the very male-dominated field of excavation. Amid the heat and dust of Greece, she finds an unlikely ally in Charles, Baron de Robincourt, one of the few men who takes her academic passions seriously. But when a simmering conflict between Greece and Turkey erupts into open warfare, Betsy throws herself into the struggle as a nurse, not knowing that the decision will change her life forever and cause a deep and painful rift with her oldest friend, Ava. Then in June 1898, Betsy has sworn off war nursing, but when she gets the word that Ava is headed to Cuba with Clara Barton and the Red Cross to patch up the wounded in the Spanish-American War, Betsy is determined to stop Ava the only way she knows how, by joining in her place. Battling heat, disease, and her own demons, Betsy follows Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders straight to the heart of the fighting, where she is forced to confront her greatest fears to save both old friends and new. Set during an electrifying era of nation-building, idealism, and upheaval, 2 Wars and a Wedding is the tale of 2 remarkable women striving to make their place in a man's world, an unforgettable saga of friendship, love, and fighting for what is right. So that just sounds so good. It sounds so good. I would like to start reading all of these right now. This one that I've been looking forward to ever since it arrived and I realized that it was blurbed by both Rosamund Pilcher and Mary Stewart. I have Wild Highland Home by Alexandra Rafe. I have such high hopes for this one. I don't know how it can possibly live up to them, but fingers crossed. So this one is about a woman who leaves her life that isn't working for her and goes to live in a little house, a little cottage in the Scottish Highlands. And as she's trying to make it work, she gets involved in the community, or tries to get involved, and they won't let her. I can't remember how it goes. And falls in love with the handyman, I think. So this is just going to be a kind of slow slice of life. Maybe because Mary Stewart also blurbs it, maybe it will also have a little bit of a gothic element to it. I'm not sure, like a suspense element. But really, I think we could probably lean into the Pilcher here. And it's going to be kind of slice of life, good characterization, uplifting in the end. Love the setting. The setting will probably hopefully be with both of those authors, Mary Stewart and Rosamund Pilcher. Setting is key to understanding the characters in the story. So probably the setting will be just as important as any of the people in this book. So I'm really looking forward to this one. Really, really looking forward to it. This is a reread, but it's a reread like 10 years in the making. So I'm going to consider it maybe a first time read because I don't really think I remember all that much about this at all. And I never read the other two books in the series. So this is me wanting to find another YA series that I love as much as I love Witch Haven. So I went, you know what, there's a couple of Libba Bray series that really remind me of Witch Haven in some aspects. And that's the Diviners series, which I will also reread this year. And I don't know what the series is called, but the Great and Terrible Beauty series. There are 3, I think, books in the series, and there are, I think, 3 in the Diviner series as well. So I'll be with Libba Bray a lot if this works out this year. Gemma Doyle, I do remember that name. Gemma Doyle isn't like other girls. Girls with impeccable manners, who speak when spoken to, who remember their station, who dance with grace, and who will lie back and think of England when it's required of them. No, 16-year-old Gemma is an island unto herself, sent to the Spence Academy in London after tragedy strikes her family in India. Lonely, guilt-ridden, and prone to visions of the future that have an uncomfortable habit of coming true, Gemma finds her reception a chilly one. She's not completely alone, though. She's been followed by a mysterious young man sent to warn her to close her mind against the visions. For it's at Spence that Gemma's power to attract the supernatural unfolds. There she becomes entangled with the school's most powerful girls and discovers her mother's connection to a shadowy, timeless group called the Order. It's there that her destiny waits, if only Gemma can believe in it. A Great and Terrible Beauty is a curl-up-under-the-covers kind of book, a vast canvas of rustling skirts and dancing shadows and things that go bump in the night. It's a vividly drawn portrait of the Victorian age, a time of strict morality and barely repressed sensuality, when girls were groomed for lives as rich men's wives, and the story of a girl who saw another way. Whoever wrote that last little paragraph of this description should get an award, because that's one of the greatest little descriptions in a book I think I've ever read on a dust cover. But B, it sounds very much like Witch Haven, and C, it sounds very much like something that I can't wait to read, so I'm very excited. As I read that, I did start to remember a little bit about the story, but I don't remember how anything happens. So I'm very excited to dive into that again. I have another nonfiction. This one is also a romance, and it's about genealogy, which is something that I find very fascinating. This is Love's Legacy, Viscount Chateaubriand and the Irish Girl by Daniel Fallon. This is such a beautiful, beautiful book. And can I just hoot my own horn here? I ordered this off of Amazon, and I ordered a used copy because the actual copy was $25. Where is it? $25. And I was not sure that I would love this. I was not sure what this book would be like. I was not sure at all. And so I ordered a used copy of this just stunning little book. And I paid $3 with free shipping on this copy, which I don't think has ever been opened. It's so beautiful, pristine. A $25 copy for $3. And yeah, I'm so excited about this. So here it is. Imagine suddenly inheriting tender letters from a renowned historical figure addressed to one of your great-great-grandparents. Now suppose that you lived and worked among scholars accustomed to posing and resolving tantalizing questions. These circumstances formed the tinder and spark igniting the genealogical investigation that Daniel Fallon records in this book. Love's Legacy chronicles Fallon's search for hidden meaning in 2 letters addressed to his great-great-grandfather in the summer of 1817 by influential French writer François-René de Chateaubriand. I have to go save something that Lola is trying to attack. Oh, you're trying to eat some Rousseau, huh? You trying to eat some Rousseau? Let's just leave that alone. you on the camera? You are. Hello. I don't know if you could see, but she was trying to drink my coffee. She had pulled a copy of Rousseau off the shelf and was going to, nope, you can't get up there, baby. I don't know where I left off, so I'm just gonna go back to where it makes sense for me. You may have already heard some of this. So it says, Love's Legacy chronicles Fallon's search for hidden meaning in 2 letters addressed to his great-great-grandfather in the summer of 1817 by influential French writer François-René de Chateaubriand. Woven into the rich fabric of this work are elements making it much more than a suspenseful detective story. It is an intimate biography of Chateaubriand, offering meticulously researched information never before published. Well, now I'm going to have to do a bunch of research on this guy because I don't even know who he is or what he's written. Maybe you do. If you know, tell me down in the comments. It is the story of forbidden love, fraught with passion and tragedy, and it is a memoir relating Fallon's discoveries as he pieces together the branch of his ancestry leading from his audacious father to fathers before him, each carrying a legacy rooted in the same star-crossed encounter of long ago. Captivating and deeply humane, Love's Legacy portrays the surprising impact people's lives can have on those born centuries later. As clever as it is wise, this book reveals how recovery of the past awakens an awareness of inherited gifts that transcend genealogy. So, fascinated by this. I have started the, this was not mentioned in my January TBR because I filmed my January TBR before I had received my January read, but you can hear about it in my wrap-up. But I started the 12 books by 12 friends in 12 months challenge again this year. It was such a success for me last year that I went ahead and asked for 12 friends to recommend 12 new books. I have some friends from last year who recommended a different book this year, and I have some brand new friends this year that didn't recommend anything last year. So this month, I am going to read Jodi Picoult's Mad Honey at the suggestion of my friend Ashley. I don't know anything about Mad Honey. I'm going to listen to it. Just like last year, I'm going to mostly listen to these, and if I love them, then I will purchase copies of them. But let's find out what Mad Honey is about. Okay, Olivia McAfee knows what it feels like to start over. Her picture-perfect life living in Boston, married to a brilliant cardiothoracic surgeon, raising their beautiful son Asher, was upended when her husband revealed a darker side. She never imagined that she would end up back in her sleepy New Hampshire hometown. I love it when characters go back to their hometown. Living in the house she grew up in and taking over her father's beekeeping business. Lily Campanello is familiar with do-overs too. When she and her mom relocate to Adams, New Hampshire for her final year of high school, they both hope it will be a fresh start. And for just a short while, these new beginnings are exactly what Olivia and Lily need. Their paths cross when Asher falls for the new girl in school, and Lily can't help but fall for him too. So it's a love story. With Ash, she feels happy for the first time. Yet she wonders if she can trust him completely. Then one day, Olivia receives a phone call. Oh, spoiler alert, Lily is dead, and Asher is being questioned by the police. Olivia is adamant that her son is innocent, but she would be lying if she didn't acknowledge the flashes of his father's temper in Ash. And as the case against him unfolds, she realizes he has hidden more than he has shared with her. Ooh. That sounds both fascinating and rough. And I have read a couple of Jodi Picoult's, I think it's Picoult, right? I've read a few of her books in the past, mostly a decade or more ago. I know what she's capable of, so this could be a rough read, but also I'm probably going to absolutely love it. This one, I know, has a truly dark side. This Other Eden. Synopsis says, in 1792, formerly enslaved Benjamin Honey and his Irish wife Patience discover an island where they can make a life together. Over a century later, the Honeys' descendants and a diverse group of neighbors are desperately poor, isolated, and often hungry, but nevertheless protected from the hostility awaiting them on the mainland. During the tumultuous summer of 1912, Matthew Diamond, a retired, idealistic but prejudiced schoolteacher turned missionary, disrupts the community's fragile balance through his efforts to educate its children. His presence attracts the attention of authorities on the mainland who, under the influence of the eugenics thinking popular among progressives of the day, decide to forcibly evacuate the island, institutionalize its residents, and develop the island as a vacation destination. Beginning with a hurricane flood reminiscent of the story of Noah's Ark, the novel ends with yet another ark. In prose of breathtaking beauty and power, Paul Harding brings to life an unforgettable cast of characters. Iris and Violet McDermott, sisters raising 3 orphaned Penobscot children, Theophilus and Candace Larks and their brood of vagabond children, the prophetic Zachary Hand to God Proverbs, a Civil War veteran who lives in a hollow tree, and more. A spellbinding story of resistance and survival, this other Eden is an enduring testament to the struggle to preserve human dignity in the face of intolerance and injustice. It just sounds really good and really sad and really hard, and I purposefully put it amongst all of these super happy books so that I could feel the balance of the sadness. The next book on my list is one that hasn't arrived yet, but I will have a hard copy of this. This is a pre-order of Mimi Matthews' 3rd book in her trilogy. This is The Lily of Ludgate Hill. Now, the 2nd book in this trilogy blew me away, The Belle of Belgrave Square. Blew me away last year, and it was almost my favorite book of the year, but it had every little nod to the Brontes that I could want or desire, and it was just really a story for me. I don't know what to expect with The Lily of Ludgate Hill, except that I trust Mimi Matthews to spin a good Victorian yarn, and I may absolutely love it, or I may just kind of enjoy it. Either way, it's gonna be a win, and fingers crossed I love it. I don't think I will love it more than I love Belle of Belgrave Square. That one is just such a perfect book for me and my interests and my enjoyments, but I am sure I will like Lily of Ludgate Hill. Bitter Greens. This one sounds really compelling to me. It's a retelling of Rapunzel. Lola, what are you doing, babe? She's demanding food. She's got her bowl under the table and she's digging in it. She's not starving. She's probably not even hungry. She's just upset that I'm here talking to you. So we've got Bitter Greens, which is a retelling of Rapunzel. This is French novelist Charlotte Rose de la Force has been banished from the court of Versailles by the Sun King after a series of scandalous love affairs. At the convent, she's comforted by an old nun, Sister Seraphina, who tells her the tale of a young girl who, 100 years earlier, is sold by her parents for a handful of bitter greens. After Margareta's father steals parsley from the walled garden of the courtesan Selina Leonelli, he is threatened with having both hands cut off unless he and his wife relinquish their precious little girl. Selina is the famous red-haired muse of the artist Tiziano, first painted by him in 1512 and still inspiring him at the time of his death. She is at the center of Renaissance life in Venice, a world of beauty and danger, seduction and betrayal, love and superstition. Locked away in a tower, Margareta sings in the hope that someone will hear her. One day, a young man does. That sounds just like such a great little love story. And then I've also got Wildling Hall. Thank you. Here's her bowl. She gave it to me. Hold that thought. I'm going to get her what she wants. So we've got Wildling Hall. It says, after the tragic and mysterious death of one of their founding members, the young musicians in a British acid folk band hole up at Wildling Hall, an ancient country house with its own dark secrets. There they record the classic album that will make their reputation, but at a terrifying cost. When Julian Blake, their lead singer, disappears within the mansion and is never seen again. Now, years later, each of the surviving musicians, their friends and lovers, including a psychic, a photographer, and the band's manager, meets with a young documentary filmmaker to tell his or her own version of what happened during that summer. But whose story is the true one, and what really happened to Julian Blake? It just sounds fascinating to me. I have an ARC that I want to read. And I've been getting so many great arcs. I've just been getting every single thing that I've requested. So I'm currently reading the new Catherine Center, the rom-commers. It's so good. It's so good, you guys. I mean, I'm a Catherine Center super fan, but I was so excited that they let me have this, and I didn't even request it. They just sent me a little email saying, "We know you love Catherine Center," and invited me to download it, and I was just so happy. So this one is available, but I'm going to read the arc of it that they just sent to me, even though this came out last November. I'm going to read A Rome of One's Own, The Forgotten Women of the Roman Empire by Emma Southen. And this is the history of Rome that you may or may not be familiar with, retold through, I think, 21 women, their perspective, their role, their place in society and in the historical happenings. And then the other one is this one, which comes out in February. So nope, it doesn't. It came out on the 9th. I think it was supposed to come out in February. It came out in January. So this is, but it's about a seamstress. And it is by Laura France. And I have loved so many books by this author. She writes Christian fiction. She writes Christian historical romance, but they are really historically accurate with super great character development. These are solid quality books, and they do have an element of faith that runs through them, but they're not preachy. Where they do include some kind of preachy-ish, message-ish type stuff, it is part of the plot. It moves the plot forward. I don't love a lot of Christian fiction because of those chapter-long portions where they suddenly insert a sermon. I just really, really don't like that. I think it's terrible writing. And so I really love it when a Christian author is a great writer. And Laura France is a great writer. She really is. And I enjoy everything that I have read by her. There has not been a single book that I have read by her. I haven't read them all, but there hasn't been a single one that I have not loved. I loved A Bound Heart. I just recently purchased a copy of one that I read as an ARC last year, and then I saw that it was at Book Outlet, so I grabbed a copy of it. This is The Rose and the Thistle by Laura France. You can see I love these covers. I love her covers. And then I also have The Bound Heart in the other room. And I've read several others by her on Kindle Unlimited or as ARCs, and I just really, really like her writing. So I have the Seamstress of Acadie. Let's go with Acadie. And this one says, 1754 is drawing to a close. Tension between the French and the British on Canada's Acadian shore are reaching a fever pitch. Seamstress Sylvie Gallant and her family, French-speaking Acadians wishing to remain neutral, are caught in the middle, their land positioned between two forts flying rival flags. Amid preparations for the celebration of Noel, the talk is of unrest, coming war, and William Blackburn, the British Army Ranger raising havoc across North America's borderlands. As summer takes hold in 1755 and British ships appear on the horizon, Sylvie encounters Blackburn, who warns her of the coming invasion. Rather than participate in the forced removal of the Acadians from their land, he resigns his commission. But that cannot save Sylvie or her kin. Relocated on a ramshackle ship to Virginia, Sylvie struggles to pick up the pieces of her life. When her path crosses once more with Williams, they must work through the complex tangle of their shared, shattered past to navigate the present and forge an endearing future. That sounds good. It sounds really good. So, more Kindle books. More Kindle books. So, I'm sure, well, maybe not. I think a lot of us have been blessed over the years to have watched the videos of Jennifer Brooks. And Jennifer Brooks recently passed away. Her mother posted a short slide video explaining that she passed away of unknown causes very recently. And about a week before she passed away, I had just watched her 24 books that she'd like to read in 2024. So many of those books are not books that I would have picked for myself, but When I saw the video announcing that she had passed away, I was reminded, my thought was, she just posted plans, hopes, dreams, intentions for a year she will not live. And I went and I watched that video again, and I was moved. I felt compelled to read the 24 books that she will not get to read, and to celebrate her with each read, but also to celebrate us, all of us, because I've watched her for years and I feel like I know her. Like so many of us feel like we know each other, and we don't. We don't, but we still, in at least one facet of our lives, have a huge impact on each other. And I am impacted by you, and you are impacted by me. Jennifer impacted me in my reading and my understanding of, especially Victorian. When Victober rolled around, she was quite the authority in my eyes. And I just feel compelled to take the year, to spend the year reading the 24 books that Jennifer Brooks will not be able to read. So this month I'm only reading one, and it's actually a reread for me. I'm going to read Edith Wharton's The Buccaneers. The Buccaneers is really popular right now, as Jennifer Brooks said in her explanation of why it was on her list of 24 and 24. With the release of the Apple series, which I haven't watched, it gained a lot of momentum. It is an unfinished novel that someone else has finished for Edith Wharton. But The Buccaneers, I've read it, like I said, and I was a very big Wharton reader at that time. That's back when I was really reading Wharton. I was obsessed with The Age of Innocence. I do not remember really loving The Buccaneers, but maybe I will feel differently. I'm a different reader now. I'm a different person now. All my cells have been regenerated a couple times over since I first read The Buccaneers. So I'm gonna dive into this. I'm actually gonna listen to it on audio. I don't own a copy, and I'm probably not going to purchase a copy. I did want to read more Wharton this year, so this is good. It was not one of the books that I was going to read by her, but I will. And I will do so in memory and honor of Jennifer Brooks. And I don't know if I will read it the same way she would. I don't know if I will feel about it the same way she did. That is not the point at all. The point is that she made plans that she couldn't keep, but we could keep them for her. So I'm gonna do that this year. So I think that's it. That is it. With the exception of whatever book of the month I pick. Is there anything on this TBR that you are excited to read, that you have read? Is there anything that you're like, girl, do not read that book? Let me know. I'm really excited about all of these. I'm very, very excited about my rereads of some of these classics. I am just in a classics mood. I am also apparently in a rom-com mood. Yay. Yay, classics and rom-coms. Let's go read. Let's go read.